Well, greetings. It's a kind of bird chirpy morning here in East Hawaii. I hear doves. I hear finches. Yeah, so today I'm here for the specific reason of talking about developing ideas. Most of us get ideas. Obviously the shed behind me was my idea. I drafted it and built it, the tables in the nursery and everything around here. The entire property, the house, everything, okay. All started with ideas. And I think, I'm pretty good at developing my ideas. Not bad at all. I'm a lazy guy, and so I have a tendency to limit just how much I develop ideas, and get into it, because the truth of the matter is for the most part, I'm the guy that's got to do it, right? Somehow, and maybe I don't need that much work. At this point in life, no, I don't need that much work. That was something as a younger man where I had tremendous energy, and I'd take on anything. Not anymore. Try to limit it, but ideas tend to flow from human creativity. Yeah, at least in my world, that's where they come from. I'd be sitting around the evening on the porch, watching the sun go down, watching the moon come up, and all of a sudden, ooh, wow, is that a good idea? I'll go, oh, it'll just pass right through my head, and then usually these days I'll go, oh man, Bill, come on. Who's going to implement this? Yours truly. Yeah, right. Okay, so forget that. Yeah, I throw out a whole lot more of what comes up than I actually bother with. It's got to be kind of important, as far as I'm concerned, before I actually pick it up and carry it, fly with it. But yeah, human creativity, our imagination, is where we really get our ideas from. We also pull them from the world around us, but they usually go through the brain, and so it's sort of like a little bit meat grinder, and then comes out the other end. We end up with meatloaf. Yeah, so I feel it's important, again, that with your children, that you help them develop imagination. You can do that because that will help them develop ideas as they grow older that will probably make their life better, maybe other people's lives better. When I think back to my childhood as to how did I start thinking this way, that I had all these creative ideas, mostly I think it was sand, soil, water, and modeling clay, maybe blocks. I'm not sure where my mother picked up on this, but she always made sure that my brother and I at least had plenty of modeling clay. Even if we got it all over everything, created a terrible mess, she would still bring us more modeling clay when it was required. And what we would do with it was we'd think of things, I want a dinosaur. Yeah, right. He's going to be this big. I'm going to use brown clay for the dinosaur, and so then through your fingertips, via your mind, you take the clay and you shape the dinosaur, right? And then the soil you piled up over here, which is a dam over the town, which is filled with little plastic toy soldiers, and you filled it up with all the water. You put the dinosaur there, attacking the soldiers, and then break the dam, right? Everything goes downstream. Kids like that stuff. We did. Yeah, so I really think that some of those physical toy-like objects that I was given as a child helped to create what I am today, how I work today, because, again, it created the brain wiring in me that said, you think of something, you put your hands in gear, it will happen. Yeah. Yeah, it's that interaction. Today, a lot of the toys kids have today are, virtual digital. And I'm not dissing that. There's creativity to be had there too. But it is not the same in my opinion. I started out in life as a pencil draftsman, used to do drafting and we used a pencil. Well, everything was far more analog in those days, right? Yeah, and so we had a lot more physical contact than we have in the virtual digital world today. I have made the transition to digital drafting. My recording is all digital, right? And there's tremendous advantages to our modern technology. Yeah, there is. But I'm not sure if that's all you ever have, and you don't actually have a physical lump of clay that you can really see turn into something. It's hard, it's physical, it's there, you can hold it, smack it, At least I think that. And part of the reason I'm talking about this here is because I did have some of the viewers, folks who had visited here on the island and were actually become friends, who had asked me about child development and things, which, I know nothing, but I guess they saw how nice I was to my cat. Anyway. So, yeah, developing the creative intellect, that process actually is a wiring process in the brain. So, when it comes to ideas, now you may have one, and you're thinking about whether or not you should implement this. Well, develop it, make it happen, right? It's very common that most of us will actually, go to somebody and ask them, hey, what do you think? Well, now my experience with bouncing my ideas off of other human beings has not been very good, okay? It hasn't. I think it's mostly because my ideas are a little bit off-center. I've never been a real normal kind of a kid or guy. Never, whole life. And so most of what I would put forward into the world, I would say ordinarily met with at least 80% rejection. It's gotten a little better maybe over time, but sometimes with 100% rejection and so on. And so gradually in time I learned to be very careful about whose opinions I'm asking, when I think I have an idea and I want to try to bounce it. The reason I say be very careful about it is, here's the track record for me. As a young man, boy, I love to draw. My mother got me started, imitating Disney comics. And I just kept going and going and going with it. And, well, I was into cars. An American boy, right? And I loved hot rods back in the 50s and so in the early 60s. And so I talked my mom into taking me to the car shows in Chicago. So they'd have, the hot rods all on display on Navy Pier over there. Well, one day I wandered into a show and they had the Beatnik Bandit there, which is a famous car by Ed Roth, and Big Daddy Ed Roth. Is a beatnik sort of a character from California who built wild cars, really out there. And he also had a business that was art. He hated Mickey Mouse. And so he developed what he called the Rat Fink. Some of you may know what I'm talking about here. He had these hairy rat-looking characters, driving 32 Deuce Coupes, and they'd airbrush these things, and it was wild, nutty stuff. I was very inspired. I actually met him there with his car, and I saw him doing his work, and I said, yeah, I want to do that too. And so I started drawing Rat Finks and all these weird characters, and I'd show this stuff to kids at school, and it was like, oh man, kid, are you weird? Where do you get these ideas? Really, it was. I was seriously questioned as far as my sanity for my art. But long story short, as I got into high school, and I had two art teachers in high school, and both of them encouraged me to go on to art college, said they would get me scholarships to go on because now these guys were artists themselves and they were highly educated in the subject, and they looked at what I was doing and they said, "You're good. Yeah, you're good. You really need to develop this." Well, of course, all my life, everybody told me, "Oh, you're weird. Ooh, you're weird." Well, all of a sudden one day I get two guys telling me that, well, I didn't want to go to art college and I didn't do it. That's another story. And so I never did pick that up. But what I was dissed for most of my life by other people, turns out, well, it was a winner. I was good at it. Well, same thing happened to me in business. No different. When I thought I wanted to go into organic farming early in life, I bounced that off other people. Quite a few of them. And that was the big lesson. It was the turning point. There was where I had the epiphany about ideas and other people. And that I got, well, I was almost 100% negative reactions when I said, well, I want to go into organic farming. I'm thinking about buying a place in Wisconsin, that's capable of being farmed and blah, 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 And I had this whole thing about the whole school of organic agriculture. I was totally moved by what was going on there. It was an exciting time, with all that. We did not have organic certifications, government programs, or anything associated to it. Totally grassroots. And I found it very inspiring. And so the original idea had not come from me. I had just decided to adopt it. Well, of course, living around Chicago, very urbanized area, and you've talked to most people, they'll go, farming? What, are you kidding me? You crazy? You want to walk in cow crap the rest of your life? And so I got back nothing but negative feedback. Everybody thought I was crazy. That was nuts. Why would you do this? There was only one man. It was my stepfather, Ed. And I asked him, I said, Ed, what do you think about this idea? Well, he didn't judge the idea. That was what was really good about him. I admire him very much. He did not judge the idea. He didn't pass judgment one way or the other on it. He says, hey, it's your idea, do it. But what I've learned in my life, he told me, is that any ideas you might have, if you don't pick them up and carry them, move forward with that rapidly and begin to develop it, make it real. If you don't pick it up and carry it, it's probably going to fade away like a lot of other dreams, and it'll get out of your reach. And wow, that was an epiphany for me in life when I realized that, asking other people about what I want to do is probably toxic. Yeah, it is, usually. Not always, but usually. It's a very rare person when you ask these questions of them that will actually give you good information you might be able to use. It's almost always negative. And if you don't believe me, go on, try it, Same thing happened later on, as I'm running business for nursery business, old, long-established nursery in the Bay Area, California, for a group of partners. And, as Amazon started this transition from being a bookseller to a retailer, well, first off, I looked at it, I said, oh man, wave of the future, and I put a bunch of money on it. Well, today, you can imagine, I don't need to do anything else the rest of my life, just because I looked at Bezos' idea, what he was doing, said, this is good. That guy made me a lot of money. Not enough to go into space with him, not that I want to, but he made me plenty. And that was my idea. Well, I took the ideas that I saw there. Again, I didn't create this. I just picked it up from the environment. And I carried it into the workplace with the partners that own the company. I was a manager for them, ran stores, but I was not in charge of anything but, specific store. And so any ideas I might have, that flowed over the borders, I had to go to the meetings, the board meetings and stuff. So I take this stuff in there, and I tried to encourage them to look at the possibility of moving a lot of the nursery business they had online, creating a digital representation, they actually had almost all the infrastructure they required to be able to set this up without too much additional input. Just a change of mindset and how they were going to, distribute products. I wasn't telling them to stop the brick and mortar stores at all, but they did have some big warehouses connected to some of them that could be easily repurposed for the purpose of doing online sales of horticultural items, seeds, plants, whatever it might be, tools. Well, the people that owned the company were older. Their mindset was not nearly as progressive in this direction as mine. They didn't get it. Okay? And so they didn't allow it to happen. Slapped it down. Didn't want to hear it again. And then there came a point later where I had encouraged them to take the business and go green with it. Yeah, to focus on, clean solutions, environmental solutions, blah, blah, blah. The whole green story. And there was money in it. I could see it. The world was going that way. This is about the time they were making organic a legal thing, in Washington. Well, nope. Nope, sorry, Bill. We ain't going green. Yeah, all right, it's your business. I just kept running it and collecting my salary, but inevitably, the nurseries are gone today. They don't exist anymore. People who shopped in the Bay Area or in that general would recognize Navlet's nursery. Been in business since 1885. Well, they're not in business anymore. I wouldn't say it's entirely because they wouldn't listen to me, but I suspect if they had picked up my ideas instead of rejecting everything I had to say, they'd be in a better situation. They might still have the doors open. Instead, I took the ideas and I used them. And you're witnessing, people in the Bay Area who get, drought-tolerant gardens designed by me and fruit landscapes and whatever. All of this stuff was part of some of the ideas I tried to promote. But I just took them and I repurposed them for me and went into business for myself. It's been quite successful. Yeah, quite successful. As I said, I'm retired these days. I kind of limit the scope of things just because I don't want to work that hard. If I was a younger man, I could really pile a fire under this, I suppose, and make something big out of it. But I was the only one that actually believed in my ideas. Nobody else did. At least not in the circle of people that mattered. These were good lessons. Tremendous lessons. Man, to pass anything on to anybody else out there who's thinking they want to go into organic farming, thinking they want to make nurseries, thinking they want to, make a food forest, move to Hawaii, do whatever, thinking whatever you want to do, I highly recommend that you do not spend too much time or effort checking it out with the people around you. You'll need to confirm it with your wife or your husband. It's a good idea, relationships, right? So where you have these relationship issues, this is exceedingly important. That has to be settled. Here on this farm in Hawaii, most of this was my idea, but I'm here with Ellen. She is my partner, and she has ideas too, and most of what's happened here had to be confirmed and approved with Ellen so that we weren't at each other's throats. I worked pretty hard to see that she was comfortable with what was going on here. And eventually what happened is, her ideas also bloomed here. And so pineapples, vanilla, and orchids, none of that's my idea. In fact, I was okay with orchids and vanilla, but I really was opposed to pineapples. Yeah, this story goes, it's the first time we ever came to Hawaii. Ellen sees a pineapple in the farmer's market and says, "Oh, Bill, will you buy a pineapple?" I look at it and it's got Dole tag on it. I say, "You get that thing at Safeway in California? I ain't flying all the way over here picking that thing up." Well, then finally she found a white pineapple. I tasted it, and I said, all right, you got a point. These are really good. She bought 5 eventually. 5 turned into hundreds and then thousands, and now she's the pineapple queen. She's been selling pineapple starts, pineapple fruit, pineapple tops, straight along. She's got a business of her own actually running based on pineapples here. I wasn't all that hot on the pineapple to begin with. I'm definitely hot on Ellen being in business for herself here. I think it really helps her be connected to the land. She gets satisfaction out of it, she hasn't always been able to take the ideas she's had in life and develop them. She's had sort of similar problems as far as negativity, from people that... Now, these days, things have changed quite a bit, though. It used to be when we wanted advice on something, just to bounce an idea, it was usually friends and family or business associates. That was the usual circle. It used to be. It's changed. Social media has allowed people actually, to get thumbs up, then down, and up and down and down and up from, complete strangers. In general, those people, most of them, I think, depending on the nature of where you are and how you're in social media, really could care less about who in the heck you are, how you feel, what you are, or anything else. Some of the positive stuff, maybe you have support from some people out there that really might actually be a friend that you haven't met yet. Yes, that happens. That happened to me. But a lot of the negativity that you're going to be faced with, if you ask a question or present something online, so much of it's an agenda to itself. People who have locked mindsets, this monolithic thinking, people who just got an attitude problem, chip on the shoulder, as we used to say, Grandpa would say, an axe to grind, I guess. And that's true. They're just out there to create havoc, chaos, mess with people's minds. And it really does mess with a lot of people's minds. If you look at statistics, particularly over teenage suicide, over reactions to their social media accounts, it's pathetic. Apparently, we really do care what other people think. It's been a long life, hard lesson, I think, for me. Really not to give a damn one way or another. Yeah, in general, what I find is that most people who will oppose your ideas or diss you or insult you or whatever, the problem is theirs. It's not yours. And it's, your job is really to try to figure out how to deflect it so it doesn't have too much impact on you. I recently posed a number of ideas online here I was attacked viciously, but it was obvious from almost all the attacks that these people, they hadn't really paid any attention to what I said. They didn't bother to take a look at some of the stuff that I posed. They had no interest in actually learning anything or, picking anything up there. Their interest was they have an agenda and I must be crushed. I see it with solar energy. I see it with GMO crops. I see it with most any time I happen to talk about human illnesses, just about anything. It doesn't matter. They just kind of come out of the woodwork. And, sometimes, truth is, everything's changed today. So much. Some things are the same, but so much has changed. I am no longer the same person as when I started this channel 12 years ago. Okay, I do different work in a way than I did. I have different views on life. A lot of things have changed that way. The world's changed around me, too, dramatically. I'm not sure who's changed more, frankly. But So there has been change, and as I started this channel originally, the idea was that as I took my ideas that my bosses didn't like, I implemented them in my own business, and as a credential, as a business card, as a promotion, cheapest thing I could think of was that camera right there and YouTube. And so I put my face out on YouTube, and initially the sole purpose of all those nice garden videos and how do you prune raspberries, blah blah, which people are still watching. I get the pear tree videos back frequently and so on, that were done years ago. Well, that was really put out there because I had that knowledge and understanding, and I wanted to show it to the world so that when I went ahead and put up a website for a business of how I can come into your yard, do designs, do plantings, help you with your problems, blah, 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 that you'd find me on YouTube, and you go, hey, he seems pretty good. Whoa, he's local. Whoa, hey, let's contact him, And so it helped me promote a business. It was the cheapest possible way I could even think of getting advertising for what I wanted to do. It was successful. But over time, I closed the business eventually, and so that impacted a lot of things. Also, in the meantime, I was making plans for a great change in life, retirement, And so I had ideas that I was going back and forth between California, Hawaii, working on this stuff, but still maintaining what I was doing in California. And so the channel became hybrid. Partially, I was moving things to Hawaii and starting to show tropical stuff and what I was doing here. But still going back and, pruning pear trees in California and doing that too. Well, eventually, I moved. When I moved, I retired, so I no longer had access to all these yards, trees, the work people needed, all the stuff that I was doing. I wasn't planting gardens all over for different people that I could take pictures of and so on. This stuff still exists on the web here, on YouTube, on my channel, but I don't do it anymore. Well, that meant change. Again, more change. The channel had to change. I changed. What I do changed. And so, initially as I got in here to Hawaii, as they say, butts and elbows, man, I was busy trying to get this all set up. I had ideas, and I'd learned how to use my fingers to make it happen, and I did. Hurt myself a few times, got tired, realized I ain't 35 years old anymore, and eventually kind of got it over the hump and started to slow it down. Okay. And so now, a lot of times I just get up in the morning and watch the sunrise. I'm not hustling anymore. I don't dig holes now, much. So, again, the channel had to change. And so I started to add other material, just things that came to my mind, like right now, okay? Things that were not necessarily at all related to plants. They were just related to life. I live. I have viewpoints on life. Most of the viewpoints I've had, as I said, other people said, whoa. But what I found out was when I started putting my life up online, well, I still get the negativity, but I also find there's a whole lot of people that looked at it and said, geez, pretty cool. And so it did validate some of my ideas for me when people do that. I don't ignore positive feedback, trust me. But it appears that I had a lot of people who had subscribed into this channel, and that I may have led them down a primrose path over the years where they thought the channel was going to remain gardening guitars, that was it. Or for some of you people who don't like the guitars, just garden, because I've been told they hate my music too, so whatever. It's not important to me. I'm not in that business. But, well, as change continued, and lately there's been even more dramatic changes because of COVID, and my mind's focused in other directions sometimes. And so I don't, maybe we're 50-50. Garden, other stuff. Maybe it's even less than that. I don't know. Whatever. I made changes. I made changes. They seemed appropriate to me. Boy, you better believe there's some people that they were not about to let me do that. That was not in their book. Well, I got news for all you guys out there as far as that's concerned. This here's my house. Yeah. This channel's my tavern. You don't insult the bartender, boys. You know what happens. You know what happens. Start raising chaos in the bar, and you'll figure it out pretty quick. Well, I'm getting that. It used to be that people just told me, "Oh, you're weird, kid," or "No, that isn't going to work," or whatever. Nowadays, I even hardly get that anymore. What I get is just insults, disinformation, garbage. Just a bunch of crap. I don't know what happened to manners. I have no idea what happened to manners, but when people went online, the manners went out the window. And whereas if somebody watched the video, they didn't like the video, well, there'd be a couple things you could do about it. Mom always said, if you got nothing good to say about somebody, shut your mouth. And that's a pretty good idea, frankly, today. I really agree with that. But, it's free. The channel's free. No one's charged to be here. You're walking into my house, okay? It's my house rules. Yeah, it is. You don't insult the bartender. It's that simple. You want to come in here and be a complete horse's ass and start raving about things, well, you're out. You get the YouTube garbage can. That's all there is to it. I'm not going to deal with it because I don't care what you think. If you like what I'm doing, fine. Hang in there. I love you guys. The rest of you, I'm actually going to salt videos in between my upcoming videos. Like I set rat traps out here in the garden, and as you guys come out of the woodwork, you're out of here. I want to find you. I want to weed you out. I don't need that negativity. I don't need that problem. And I don't care about your opinions or your ideas. It's not important to me at all. They're yours. Carry them. Go somewhere. You don't like what's happening over here, start your own channel, That's really the way I feel about all of this. And so I'm really encouraging people who have positive ideas, be very careful about putting the ideas up on the internet if you're sensitive to the opinions of others. I would say that opinions of others have an effect on me, but I've spent an entire life having opinionated people tell me that I don't know what I'm doing, that I'm nuts, that I'm off center, there's something wrong. Guess what, folks? They were all wrong. 100% of them, because I love my life. I got a better life than most of you will ever dream you can have. And I have it because of my own ideas. And because I didn't listen to the rest of you when I tried to implement them. I just went right ahead and I said, I know it's good. I can do this. When it comes to the development of ideas, I would say rule number 1, don't ask an opinion. That's important. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't do good research. And there are places where you can go, where you can find out quality information about the ideas that you have, because honestly, I maybe had a few unique ideas in my life, but not many. Most of what I have has been the social matrix. It's floating around out there. It's, and you pick the stuff up, and well, after a while, it seems like you thought of, but that's probably not where it really first came from. You just adopted it, usually, and then you maybe develop it in your own way, from your own viewpoint. So then you do make what were maybe public domain ideas your own. It can happen. But anyway, I believe that if I had listened to most other people about what I had to do in my life, chances are, well, I definitely would not be the same person here today doing what I'm doing, most likely, had I listened to them. There's a pretty good chance that I wouldn't be very happy either. Reason I'm generally pretty happy is I've watched most of my ideas develop into fruition to become reality, like that lump of clay. Brain wiring is what it's all about. We defeat ourselves. You want to know who your greatest enemy is? Your greatest enemy isn't a troll out there on the web that tells you you're an idiot. Your greatest enemy is yourself. I listen to folks who send comments in about things I'm doing that, like be it maybe, converting totally to solar energy and electric cars. Okay. Well, ever since I first got the idea, this goes back a long time. This did not happen overnight. I've continuously heard people tell me, "Oh no, solar energy doesn't work," or "Oh no, they'd never be able to get the electric cars in." Blah 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 blah. There's something wrong with everything. Okay, and people's minds are the greatest roadblock that they face in their lives. Yeah. And then if you take your own mental roadblock and you ask somebody else about it, you're screwed. That's all there is to it. Yeah. You got to let yourself loose first. If it even looks like you're making an excuse. Yeah. I make excuses. Yeah, I do. And I agree with them if you have a good reason why that excuse exists. Like I said, I sit on the porch, I think all kinds of cool stuff every night, just about, and I usually will dump it down the hatch, get it out of here, just only for the reason that I realize that if I take that idea, I'm going to have twice the work that I used to have, and I'm a lazy guy, okay? I enjoy hanging around with my feet up. I like sitting around talking story. I wouldn't be any good at this if I didn't like just sitting around talking. This is something, here in Hawaii we call it talk story. It's a cultural thing, but it goes back a long time for me. I had numerous friends over life that this is what we did. We just hung out and we talked. Now, when you got a good friend and you can do that, you can all agree to disagree. No problem. Yeah, pick the thing up tomorrow, and move on. Life is not that serious, as to, again, some of the comments you can get back from some of the social media stuff from people who are, they're not your friends. I'll tell you that much. That's about all I got to say on that subject this morning. I do believe that I've developed my idea. And I've tossed it out to you guys, but I'll tell you what, I don't give a damn how you feel about it. If you can pick it up and look at it and go, I never thought of that. So if I can inspire you a little bit, maybe, this is my hope, that I think some of these things are good. I know they work for me. They've been tested. And so if somebody's been having a problem that way, and I gave them a little bit of vision they didn't have, even the tiniest amount, I'm pleased. My mission here is accomplished, As far as the rest of you who think I'm crazy, delusional, they've been telling me that my whole life, fools. You think I give a darn? Well, I don't give a darn. I know you idiots are out there. They've been there all my life. It's just these days, they get into my front room when I'm on my computer, I don't have to bang into them in the street. But, yeah, I'm pretty well callous to that stuff. I know who I am. You can't fool me. Hang loose, folks.